What's up, guitar playing people? Here we are again with another fantastic week of guitar practice. As always, for those of you who are looking to get over that plateau, beginner, intermediate phase where you're feeling a little bit stuck, these are perfect for you. We've got timed exercises ranging from accuracy, speed, and knowledge of the neck. We've got sliding skill work this week. We've got a cool major lick. So all of these things will be applicable to your playing right freaking now, and will honestly improve all of the songs and solos you want to learn. So I always suggest putting these practice sessions on the front end of your all the other stuff you want to learn, songs and solos, things like that, pieces, let's say. And so, obviously we change it week to week. So if you do find this helpful, as always, like and subscribe. That's very helpful to me and will allow me to keep putting these things out there. So anyway, stick till the end because we've got 4 exercises today. They're timed pieces, 5 minutes a piece. And you want to make sure you're here for all of the nuggets of information I've been saying. And yeah, that's really the deal. All right. Last housekeeping thing. There is a link to a downloadable PDF of all of these exercises. So, like I said, I want you using this before your sessions or on the front end of your sessions, every time you're going to play this week. So I don't want you coming back to this video and having to scan through each time. Watch it once, download the PDF, and use it on your own time. All right. And again, they're timed pieces, so are timed exercises. If you need to bring things down to 2.5, 3 minutes per exercise, that's all right. Okay. But let's go ahead and jump right in. The first exercise is based around double stops. All right. So playing 2 notes at a time, which is going to force you to have to be more accurate with your picking hand. And of course, this is the first time we're touching our instrument, right? So feeling things out, just, kind of syncing up with your instrument is big in all practice, but certainly the first exercise. So this is based around the B minor pentatonic, like the most simple pentatonic shape we all learn. Excuse the guitar faces that'll be prominent here. For those of you who stop by, you already know that. So we're going to take that scale and we're just going to add 2 notes, right? 7, 7, 10 and 9, 7 and 7, 9 and 9, 7 and 7, 9 and 9, 7 and 7, 9 and 10, 7 and 7, 10 and 10. Sorry, I should be looking down because I feel like I played a few of those pretty sloppy. All right, so then we come back down 10, 10, 7, 9, 10, 7, 7, 9, 9, 7, 7, 9, 9, 7, 7, 10, 9, 7, 7. And that's all I want you to do for these first 5 minutes. All right, so if you're a beginner, you might really need to just sound this out. Really tap into feeling out both strings at the same time. Right, it might sound a little clunky, it might not sound super fluid quite yet. That's totally fine. All right, if you're more intermediate, you're sneaking into the advanced realm, this should feel pretty good for you. Fingerings, the position should feel pretty good for you. Put on a metronome, right? So beginners, you might want to go no metronome to start and just, feel things out, sound it out. Once you feel comfortable with this though, put on a metronome and stay honest with the metronome and get it into good rhythm, right? The only reason I don't have a metronome on right now is, as you all know, if you do stop by, I'm using my phone to film. I got the computer plugged into the amp or kind of mic'd up to the amp. So those are my metronome pieces of equipment. So anyways, be honest. And it's okay. You just heard on that last, few notes. Sometimes you are going to play that 3rd note. Listen, accidents happen. The whole reason you want repetition is so that you can get some concerted time to refine. So think about Jimi Hendrix. He has a bunch of solos where he's using double stops intertwined with bending and hammer-ons and slides and all the skills we associate with great solos. But we want to take some time to isolate those skills, so that by the time you get to that song, if you're learning, The Wind Cries Mary, that solo has a great pentatonic lick in it, but it also has a ton of double stops. You don't want to have to think about, am I being accurate, or, oh gosh, I'm so rigid. You want to come into it loose with the skills that you need inside of those songs and solos, right? So maybe after this, you even want to try out The Wind Cries Mary solo, because we've got some things in here that might be directly applicable. All right, but there's exercise 1. Let's not beat you over the head and waste too much time. 2 notes at a time. Go up the scale. Go down the scale. 5 minutes might seem like a lot, but you're going to start feeling yourself get more loose as you go through it. So stick with it. Don't skip this one just because, oh, I know the scales and I know the double stop. You want to be, what separates beginners, intermediates, and advanced players is being masterful of all of these simple things, right? There's no extra bend that happens as you become advanced. It's just how good are you at bending and making it sound clean and putting emphasis, things like that. So double stop scale, run through it, and we will be on to the next ones. The next exercise 2, and I'm looking down because I have all of my notes on the exercises on some printout pages, and I just put them on the floor. Exercise 2 is based around arpeggios. So they're based around a simple D major 7 chord, E minor 7, S sharp minor 7, and then we're coming back down, right? So think about that chord progression. Right? We're just playing it with arpeggio. So the D major 7 arpeggio is going to be, then we're going to move to the E minor 7 arpeggio. Then we've got the F sharp minor 7 arpeggio, which is the same as the E minor 7 arpeggio. We're just moving it up 2 frets. Then back down to the E minor 7. And I'm using simple alternate picking. If you want to work on sweep picking, right, all down, all up, that's totally fine. Be mindful of what you like to play. All right, so, I love bluesy stuff, so, that might be as close as I get to true sweep picking. But if you think about, right, if I was going to sweep pick, some sort of A minor arpeggio, I'm probably not going to play that style. I might, so I'm going to have these breaks where I'm hammering on and sliding up instead of, going through different arpeggios. I might be more in tune with alternate picking. So I know that about myself. I know that about my style. There's no right or wrong style to play in. You're not a bad person if you prefer, instead of blues, you love heavy metal, intense arpeggiated solos. You might want to work on sweep picking. If you like jazzy stuff, same thing. You might want to work on sweep picking because there's going to be some moments where you want to have sweep, picking arpeggios inside your solos. So just keep that in mind. I'm going alternate picking. Right, we repeat after we come down to the E minor 7. All right, so that's just the deal. Up, up, back down, restart. A great one for picking hand, for fretting hand. There's lots of picking hand accuracy for sure, but great fretting hand warm up. And if you are going to sweep pick, I would suggest hammering on from 5 to 9 here, from 5 to 9 here. Right, and actually to pull off there too. And same thing. Right, so it would sound more. The whole point of sweep picking would be to add more speed to this. All right. For me, I actually feel like I sound more musical because of my skill set. So I'm not afraid to embarrass myself. Obviously, if you're watching this, you're like, I want to be great at sweep picking. I'm not the person who's going to show you great sweep picking, but you can work on it in this exercise. Right, that's my decent attempt at sweep picking. But you know, if I had a metronome on, I would slow things down, make sure the skill was dialed in, and obviously I would go slower because it sounds very choppy when I'm trying to take a good crack at sweep picking. So just something to keep in mind. You can work either skill, but really important shapes to have because you know any minor or major chord you could play this arpeggio shape over, and you know it might be helpful to you. Of course, you start getting into some interesting kind of aspects of this might be a little too like blocked out, bulky, and getting into kind of 3-note shapes and spreading those across the neck might be more interesting as far as a flavor for soloing. But anyways, good stuff. Great, you know, exercise, just 5 minutes, and then we'll move on. And the next exercise is focused on sliding. And what we're going to do here is we're going to slide on each finger. So we don't often slide with our pinky, but for the sake of the exercise, and again, just getting in tune with every finger on our fretting hand, making sure our picking hand feels great and that we're being accurate. You know, that's what we're going to do with our practice exercises, so that when you get near, again, songs and solos, everything is turned on. Okay, so here is the sliding exercise. We're going to start with index finger. Then we're going to go to the middle finger. And that's on the D string. You know, obviously you see the tabs. Then we're going to go to the G string, same pattern. We're going to go ring finger. And then pinky. Now we don't often slide with the pinky, so it's okay if that's a little funky. Take your time. Be light. If you're pressing too hard on the slide, it's not going to sound good. So that's something you can really feel out here. And it's isolated, just slides with each finger. And then, you know, again, slides are going to be a part of most songs and solos, or solos specifically, that you're going to want to learn. So isolate them here, be light, figure out how to slide in a clean way before you move on to all the other songs and solos you want to learn. So here it is again. And, you know, playing with the metronome, it'll sound a little, you know, more in time. 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. You don't have to play it that fast. But there it is. Pretty simple stuff, but 5 minutes of reps on that, you know, it's just like going to the gym. It's just like exercising. You know, you don't want to do 100 different, you know, squat variations or pressing variations every time you step into the gym. You kind of have your narrow focus so you can get the most out of it. So same thing with these exercises, this exercise right here. Make sure that index finger slide sounds great. If it doesn't, pause, go back. Maybe you just spend your first 5 notes here. 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? That's allowed. You can stay on the pinky slide. All right. Sometimes you slide with the pinky. So if you feel like, man, that comes up a lot actually when I'm sliding with the pinky, stay on there. All right. But 5 minutes will give you a lot of time to play around with that. Okay. The last exercise, exercise 4. So now you've got 15 minutes of great practice under your fingers. You can kind of bring it together to a certain degree with this major lick right here. We're kind of keeping things into 2 shapes. So C major. Right? There's one shape. Right? If you're going octave, you'd end here on the A. But those are the 2 shapes that we're kind of inside of. And we're going to noodle around between those 2. All right, so here is the actual lick, the actual exercise, exercise 4, right here. So there's the exercise, there's the lick. And we're kind of moving in a diagonal direction, you know, towards the lower strings and then kind of vertical. But you should get a good feel if you're kind of looking at the 2 shapes that we're using, and I'll put that in the, you know, the downloadable PDF. You'll see, you know, you'll have a feel for how you can navigate these 2 shapes and make them sound musical, right? That's maybe the most important part of a solo, is making sure it sounds musical, melodic. Oftentimes you'll hear somebody in that intermediate phase just kind of ripping through different shapes without thinking of true musicality and pausing and things like that. All right, but here it is again.
Your first reps are to get rid of some of that sloppiness, all right? It's okay if some of these skills are a little funky, that, that final slide might be new to you. Remember, there's problem solving built into any musical instrument. So if it's not sounding great, just slow it down. As you pull off that string, it actually, inherently mutes that note from ringing out. And so you'll be able to go without any sort of funky mishits or anything like that. All right. But that's the lick. All right. Something that comes up in soloing, this will be kind of my last piece before I'll let you go, is that kind of a repeat of like texture. So you have these same kind of rhythmic hits. You're just moving them to different sections. Right, that's something you can do when you're soloing at any scenario. If you're kind of like, I don't know where to go next. Right, you can move that around. All right, maybe to play a little more clean than that first attempt. You see what I'm saying? You can repeat something that has the same rhythmic hits and same feel, but played in a different position. All of a sudden, it sounds fresh and new and all that stuff. All right. So things to think about as you're going through this lick. But ultimately, just a good one. You've got, you got to get, some slides in there, some hammers and pulls, some of those quick hammer pull techniques. And again, you're kind of getting a feel for these two, major scale shapes and how to actually play through them in a somewhat musical way. But it's still a bit scalar, but a little bit more musical. And same thing, figuring out how to make scales musical is important. Just like on the arpeggios, figuring out what's the right feel for you to make something sound musical. So take these exercises, approach them in a way that you really like to enhance your musicality. That's so important. Rather than trying to just think about how did he play it or what were his mess ups. I got my stuff to work on, you got your stuff to work on, and we can do it in tandem. So anyways, I'll leave it there. My inspirational final thoughts. Remember, download the PDF, like and subscribe if you did find it helpful. Obviously, that's helpful to me. And we got lots of good stuff for next week's session on tap. And download the PDF, and you should be good to go. All right, I will see you all on the next one. Peace.